Let's look in more detail with my special camera. This is a thermal camera, and it tells us how hot or cold things are by showing us different colours. So if I point the camera at the liquid water, can you see it shows up yellow and red? And that's because the liquid water is quite warm compared to the frozen water. Look how blue that is. That's because it's ice. It's really, really cold. So what colour do you think the ice rink's going to be? Wow! Come and have a look at this! The ice rink is blue, dark blue, because it is so cold. I think it looks a little bit like an ocean. So what about my feet? Should we go for a little skate? So my feet and my legs are yellow and red because they're much warmer than the ice. But how do you freeze something as big as this? Well, the answer lies beneath the ice. Let's take a closer look. An ice rink is made of lots of layers of different materials. The first layer is made of small stones pressed tightly together to make a hard base. Next comes a deep layer of sand that has heating pipes inside. The heat stops the ground underneath the ice rink from freezing and cracking. Next, a layer of insulation keeps the warmth from the pipes down in the ground and the cold up in the ice. On top of this is a layer of concrete that has miles and miles of pipes inside. A machine called a chiller pumps a special liquid called glycol that does not freeze through the pipes under the rink. The special liquid is very, very cold. The concrete gets colder and colder, so that when water is put on top, it freezes and goes from runny liquid water to a solid ice rink. So we can keep skating on the ice. It doesn't just have to be cold. We also need it to be smooth. So ice rinks have special machines called ice resurfacers that repair the ice to make sure they're nice and smooth to skate on. And here comes one now. Wow, can you see how smooth the ice is after the ice resurfacer's been over it? It looks like glass, doesn't it? But how does that work? Let's look outside. Underneath the ice resurfacer is a sharp blade that shaves off a very thin top layer of the ice rink. And then these corkscrews scoop up that loose ice, and then the truck can dump all of that ice out here, and the shaved ice looks just like snow. Next, it sprays water on top of the ice. Look at the jets just here. Wow! Now that water fills the grooves that have been made by the blades on your ice skates. The water freezes, which makes the surface smooth again. So, shall we see this in action, out on the ice? Can you see the blades cutting the rough ice? Listen to that! That's the sound of the ice being shaved off the top of the ice rink. It's a little bit like a vacuum cleaner. And now look, the jets are spraying on the water. Because the concrete underneath is so cold, it only takes 10 seconds for the water to freeze and turn to ice. And with the resurfacing finished, the ice rink looks as good as for a cake, only much, much bigger. There are 4 different powders that need to be measured in just the right quantities. These will all help to thicken and whiten paint, because even most coloured paints start out with a white base. Next, all of the wet ingredients are measured in here, and they're put inside this big silver pot. The main wet ingredient is water, and this batch of emulsion needs 350 litres of it. That's enough to fill 4 bathtubs. The big pot is called the disperser, and that is the disperser blade. It gets lowered down into the pot where it will spin round and round to mix all of the wet and dry ingredients together. But first, we have to turn it on. Here it goes. All of the water is swirling round inside, and it's time to add the extra ingredients. but I've got my special camera and a light so that we can see what's happening inside. Ready, Joe?
The dry ingredients we measured earlier are poured in through a grate, along with some liquid chemicals, which will help keep the paint fresh.
Whoa! It's gloopy, isn't it? Can you hear that? It's noisy, isn't it? That's because the disperser blade is spinning really fast and it makes a lot of noise.
A liquid called resin is added, which binds all the ingredients together. And then the disperser blade is left to spin for a long time, over 2 hours.
It's time for a cup of tea.
That's a lot of spinning and a lot of waiting. But eventually, it's ready.
Wow! It looks so different! I love how it's glooping off the disperser blades. Ooh, it's making a pretty pattern here. Looks a bit like a snowflake.
The paint is pumped out of the disperser along these pipes.
Now the paint's been mixed, it needs to go in a can. And for that, we use a filling machine. Whoa, it's like a paint shower. Wow, did you see that?
But there's still one more thing this paint needs, and that's colour.
To give our paint some colour, we use this. It's called a tint machine, and inside are different colour liquids. They're called pigments. Look there. There's a green pigment and a yellow pigment. You select the colour that you want and then you put the can under the machine, and then the pigment squirts from the machine into the paint. Little bit of blue, green, orange, and lots of yellow. But all of these colours need to get mixed together to make one colour. What do you think that's going to be?
To find out, the can is put into another machine called a paint shaker.
Look at that! The can of paint is being shaken around to mix all of those colours together. It's like it's dancing. Can you shake like a paint can? Wow! And here's our final paint. And it's a lovely lime green colour. I loved seeing how paint was made. What was your favourite bit?
Do you remember the name of the big pot the paint was mixed in? That's right, it's called a disperser. Did you hear the noise it made as the blades span really fast? And did you see the shaker machine shaking a paint can?
So safely, that's right, it was wrapped in this. In hundreds, if not thousands, of tiny pieces of mirror called facets. Let's see if we can see the tiny pieces of mirror on the disco ball all the way up there. I've put my special camera on the end of a long pole so we can take a closer look. Up we go!
There they are, lots of tiny mirrors.
Can you see what shape the mirrors are? That's right, they're squares. When light hits a mirror, the mirror reflects the light back because a mirror is a reflective surface. But how do the mirrors reflect the light around the room? I think we need to take a closer look.
A disco ball is made up of lots of mirrors. The top layer of a mirror is a flat, see-through sheet of glass. In the middle is a very thin, smooth layer of silver metal, and at the back is a black layer of board. When a light is shined straight at a mirror, it passes through the see-through glass and hits the metal layer. It reflects straight back because the metal is so smooth. But if we turn the mirror sideways, or up, or down, and then shine a light at it, it doesn't reflect straight back. Instead, it reflects at the opposite angle to where it hit the mirror. Because a disco ball is a round ball shape, every mirror that is on the outside is facing in a slightly different direction to all the other mirrors. So when one light shines at a disco ball, it reflects back from lots of different mirrors in lots of different directions, all at the same time. And that makes lots of small spots of light on the walls, the ceiling, and the floor.
Let's give that a go. I've got a mirror here. I'm going to switch the torch on.
Remember, you should always be careful not to shine a torch directly into your eyes.
And there you go. The beam of light is reflecting off the mirror and straight back. Look, can you see the spot of light on my tummy? So what's going to happen if I turn the angle of the mirror? Let's find out. You ready? Okay, I'm turning the mirror. And did you see the light move? The light beam is reflecting off the mirror at exactly the same angle as the light hits it. Just there. But this is just one mirror. What will happen if I shine the torch on lots of little mirrors on the disco ball? That's right. The light beam from the torch is reflected off lots of mirrors at lots of different angles all at the same time. It's really pretty, isn't it? I think there's only one thing left to do, and that is switch it on. Ready? Can you see the little spots of light are moving? And that's because the mirrors are moving, so the reflected light beams are moving too. Shall we see what this looks like on the big disco ball up there? Look at the thousands of twinkly lights. It's so pretty, isn't it? I love seeing how a disco ball works. Did you? What was your favourite bit?
Do you remember what it's called when light bounces off a mirror? That's right, it's called reflecting. Did you hear the sound the motor made when it turned the disco ball around? And did you see how the light reflected off all the small pieces of mirror? It made it pretty
Safely. That's right, it was wrapped in this.
What is this at the back? It's called the inflation tube, and it's where the air is pumped into the bouncy castle to make sure it's soft and bouncy.
To make a bouncy castle, we start in a place like this, a bouncy castle factory. All the bouncy castles made here are designed on a computer, and the exact shapes and sizes we need are stored in its memory. Bouncy castles are made from a material called PVC. That's this stuff. And for our bouncy castle today, we need 66 meters.
That's almost the same length as 5 buses.
The PVC is laid out on this huge table, but it's not cut with scissors. It's cut by this machine. It's called a computer numerical control cutter, or a CNC. And just here, it has a special spinning cutting tool that's actually called a pizza wheel, and it's that cuts the PVC. The computer tells the cutting machine the exact shapes and sizes that need to be cut out. It's called a pattern. Paul looks after the machine, and today he's given me special permission to press the start button. Okay, here goes. Ooh. What do you think this is going to be? This is going to be a side wall of our bouncy castle. But that all happened really fast, didn't it? So I'm going to use my special camera to help us see the cutter working in close up.
fast the machine is moving. It's cutting 50 pieces for our bouncy castle in lots of different colours. Can you see the shapes? Look, that's a circle. The machine makes a brilliant sound, doesn't it?
Now we have all 50 pieces to make the bouncy castle, but they're not quite ready to be put together yet. This is the fun part, painting. The bouncy castle design is painted onto some of the pieces, and Dean is painting different animals. This is going to be a bird. But what theme do you think this bouncy castle is going to be? Can you see the tiger, the snake, and another blue bird? It's going to be a jungle design. Now all the pieces come here to be sewn together by these two big sewing machines.
The first pieces are sewn together to make the A-frame.
And can you hear the sound of the sewing machine? It's like a motorbike, isn't it? Next, these pink and purple panels are going to become the bed. That's the part that you bounce on. It's very clever. The sewing machines are on tracks, so they can move the whole length of the pieces of PVC without having to lug the fabric all around.
Next, the pink panels that make up the steps are sewn in place.
Can you see all the tiny stitches that go through from the front to the back? They use a really strong thread to keep the pieces firmly together, ready for bouncing on. It's time for the back wall to be stitched. Do you remember all the animals? This is the inflation tube. It goes at the back of the bouncy castle, and it's where the air gets pumped in to make sure that it's bouncy. Look, all of the pieces have been sewn together. But this isn't very good for bouncing on, is it? That's because we need to put some air in it. We just need to plug in the fan and fill it up. Here goes. I love how it's unfolding and slowly getting bigger. Oh look, there's the tiger, the snake, and the bird there, can you see? There's only one thing left to do, and that's bounce on it. I loved seeing how bouncy castles are made, did you? What was your favourite bit?
Can you remember the name of the material that was used to make the bouncy castle? That's right, it's called PVC. Did you like the sound of the sewing machine when they stitched the PVC together? And did you see how quickly the cutter
Safely. That's right, it was wrapped in this bubble. I think we should take a look at that with my special slow motion camera. Slow motion means that we can see things that happen really quickly, much slower. So let's use it and see what it looks like when I blow air through the bubble mixture in the wand. Here goes.
Wow! Look how the bubble mixture stretches and then breaks off into a wobbly, round bubble.
Do you know what that round shape's called? That's right, it's called a sphere. Look at that lovely sphere-shaped bubble. But do you know how soap and water make bubbles and why bubbles are a round shape? To find out, I think we need to take an even closer look.
When we blow a bubble using bubble mixture, it makes a round shape made of bubble film. The bubble film has 3 layers. A thin layer of water sandwiched between 2 layers of soap. Inside the soap layers are millions of soap molecules. Each soap molecule has 2 parts, a head that likes water and a tail that doesn't like water. The heads of the soap molecules push towards the water, while the tails pull away from the water. The pulling and pushing makes the mixture stretchy enough to blow bubbles with. So when we blow air through the bubble wand, the mixture stretches out. At first it's wobbly, but because the soap molecules are pushing and pulling in every direction, the bubble quickly makes the tightest shape it can around the air inside, making a sphere-shaped bubble.
Bubbles are so interesting, aren't they? They're made because of the way water and soap work when they're put together. But to help us understand this, we need to know that water has something called surface tension. Can you see the top of the water just here? It almost looks like it's got a kind of skin on the top, doesn't it? And that's because every droplet of water is made up of millions of tiny water molecules. And those water molecules like to cling together really tightly. And it's because of the way they cling together that makes that skin. And that's what we call surface tension. I can show you surface tension if I use a paper clip just here. Paper clips are made of metal, so they're heavy. So you might think that a paperclip would sink if we put it in water. But can you see? The paperclip is floating. And that's because of all those water molecules that are clinging together really tightly, making surface tension, which is stopping the paperclip from sinking to the bottom. Now watch what happens when I put a little bit of soap onto the top of the water. Did you see the paperclip sink to the bottom? That's because of the way soap and water act when they're mixed together. All of those soap molecules work really hard to pull the water molecules apart, and that makes the mixture more stretchy. Stretchy enough for the paperclip to sink to the bottom.
But how does surface tension affect bubbles in the air?
Can you see that the bubbles pop as soon as I try to touch them? That's because when we touch a bubble with our dry hand, we break the bubble's surface tension. Our hands have a little bit of oil in them, and that keeps them nice and soft. But soap loves oil. That's why we use it to clean dirty, oily dishes. So when a soap bubble lands on our oily hands, those soap molecules try to take the oil away, but this bursts the bubble. So what can I use to try and help me catch a bubble without it bursting? I'm going to use a glove. Now let's see what happens. Whoa! The glove is stopping the soapy bubble mixing with the oil on my hands, which means I can catch the bubble and even bounce it. Wow! I loved finding out how bubbles work. Did you? What was your favourite part?
Can you remember what it was that stopped the paperclip from sinking in the water? That's right, surface tension. Did you hear the sound the bubble machine made? And did you see the bubbles being blown in slow motion on my special camera?
Safely. That's right, it was wrapped in this one. A bright green tractor. Jigsaw puzzles are sometimes made out of a type of thick paper called cardboard, but the ones we're making today are made out of wood. But these sheets of wood are much too big for our jigsaw puzzle, aren't they?
So first, they have to be cut to the right size.
Ready?
For this, Gary is using a cutting machine called a circular table saw.
And that one piece of wood will make 12 jigsaw puzzles. Oh, can you hear that noise? It's quite screechy, isn't it? Thanks, Gary.
You're welcome.
Next, the cut wood pieces need to have their puzzle pictures attached.
Here you go.
For this, Angie uses a gluing machine.
Did you see how quickly the machine put glue on the picture? I love how gloopy the glue is. And it's the rollers that spread the gloopy glue on the picture so it will stick to the wood.
The boards are then stacked in piles and put into a big blue clamp.
It's called a butterfly press. I've been given special permission to use it to turn the handles that will help press the stack together so the pictures dry flat. Ready? Now we just have to wait 10 minutes.
After they've dried, the stack of wooden pictures can be taken out, ready for the next stage.
Now's the really exciting part. It's time to cut out the jigsaw puzzle pieces.
Sean is cutting all the jigsaws at the same time by moving them around while a precision cutter cuts through the wood.
Look how quickly Sean is cutting the shapes. He's not even following a line. The saw that Sean's using is very sharp, but he's specially trained to do this. But it's so quick, it's hard to see the shapes he's cutting out, isn't it? So that we can see it all happening much more clearly, I've put my special camera on Sean's head. Okay, here we go, Sean. Okay.
Wow! Can you see the wiggly shapes being cut out? Sean doesn't use a pattern. Instead, he decides what shapes to cut out as he goes along, so it's different each time.
The jigsaw puzzle pieces look absolutely brilliant, but they're not quite finished yet. We still need some finishing touches.
To make the puzzle nice and smooth underneath, the wood is sanded using a handheld sanding machine.
Now our stack of jigsaw puzzles go to the packing area where they're ready to be packed. Here you go.
Here, any leftover sawdust is brushed and shaken off. The puzzle is ready to go in a box, and the lid is put on.
All that's left to do is have a go at the puzzle. A finished tractor jigsaw puzzle. I loved seeing how jigsaw puzzles were made. Did you? What was your favourite bit?
Do you remember the name of the big blue clamp with the huge handle at the top? That's right, it's the butterfly press. Did you hear the sound made by the circular table saw? And did you see how quickly Sean cut out the wiggly shapes in the puzzle?
Safely. That's right, it was wrapped in this. The nylon is really strong but very thin. Now, can you see this piece here that goes from the top all the way to the bottom of the kite? That's called the kite's spine. And if I turn it over, we can see this piece that goes across the kite, and that's called the cross spar. But attached to the spine, we have this piece of string that we call the kite line, and it's what we hold on to when we fly the kite in the air. When we fly kites, we have to make sure that the area is big and it's free from any trees, roads or power lines. This one is just right. Ready, guys? 3, 2, 1, up! Wow!
Can you hear the sound of the kites flapping in the wind?
To fly a kite safely, we need to make sure the wind's not too strong or too light. So to find out how strong the wind is today, I'm going to use this very special machine, and it's called an anemometer. The anemometer spins round, and and it's telling me that the wind speed today is around 10 miles per hour, and I think that will do just right. The best way to launch a kite is with 2 people, and Bill is a kite flying expert. He's going to help me launch the kite by holding on to it whilst I roll out the kite line. You ready, Bill?
Yep.
Okay. Now I need to stand with my back to the wind, pull on the kite line. Bill is lifting the kite up. Here goes. There it goes! We're flying a kite!
To get the kite higher, I can let out the kite line a little bit at a time.
Wow, it looks absolutely beautiful up there. But how does a kite fly in the sky? To find out, I'm going to film Bill flying this kite with my special camera. This is my special slow motion camera, and it helps me to see things slowed right down. Can you see the kite catching the wind and lifting up into the air?
The curved shape of the kite and the way it tilts as it flies means that air moves over the top of it faster than the air moving underneath. This creates lift, pushing the kite up into the sky. The stronger the wind, the more lift there will be. We can also feel the wind trying to blow the kite away. This creates something called drag.
To stop the kite just blowing away, we pull on the kite line, and this creates something called thrust. But for the kite to fly perfectly, we need the thrust, that's the pulling on the kite line, and the drag, that's the force of the wind, to be the same.
Let's see if I can fly the kite to show you those forces working in the air.
Now the kite is in the air, the thrust of me pulling on the kite line and the drag of the wind pushing the kite away balance each other out. And that's what keeps the kite flying perfectly in the air. And now I can just stand back and enjoy it. I loved seeing how a kite works. What was your favourite bit?
Do you remember what you call the string that's attached to the kite? That's right, it's called the kite line. Did you hear the sound of the kites flapping in the wind? And did you see the way the wind caught our kite and it lifted into the air?
Flying a kite in the wind is so much fun, isn't it? But did you know that we can use the wind to power other things too?
It can help sail a boat, fly a hot air balloon, or turn a windmill.
We can even use the wind to make electricity that will power things in our home. But to do that, we need something very big and very tall.
Safely. That's right, it was wrapped in this